Sophie and we've got sirens going in the background. It's Wednesday afternoon, and I'm here today to talk to you things that may agree with you or not, but whatever. So here we go. One of the most useless endeavors, if not the most useless exertion a person could ever engage in, is the art of thinking for oneself. I know this isn't going to sit well with many people's perception, but here we go with the G word. But God's will and plan have nothing to do with anything that transpires. The physical world is real to the scientist, but to the spiritual person, only the spiritual world is real, and both align with one through God's love. Only love is real. Love has no opposites. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And anything that occurs to God, it could matter less to God if your daughter's been murdered, you've killed a baby, you've been sexually abused, or if you have an invention that earns you $20 million and you get your own fleet of airplanes at your fingertips, or if the political candidate you believe in will save humanity or destroy it. It's got nothing to do with God's plan. Nothing to do with recovery. I'm a person in recovery from alcoholism. It has nothing to do with a person in recovery unless events that transpire in your life end up bringing you closer to God. I remember reading a near-death experience where a minister died, that his mission wasn't over yet on planet Earth, so he'd have to return. And he wasn't exactly overjoyed at that idea, I think, and so he just detected everywhere around him nothing but love. And it made him ask God. He said, well, if I go back, what religion should I engage in? And God's answer was really interesting. He said, whatever brings you closer to me. In the 12-step program that I engage in, which helps me stay sober, it's like I stay sober just so I can go to meetings. You know, I went to meetings again, so I stay sober to go to meetings. To me, it's just like continuing to go to school. I mean, education of the heart is more important than education of the mind, but the 12-step meetings engage both for me. And in the 11th step of the 12-step program, it is suggested we seek God so we can simply serve, and I'm putting things into my own words here, so we can simply serve a good or higher purpose to enable us to do the next right thing, which is to help another human being. Accomplish this, in my opinion, by intuitively aligning with and knowing God's will for us and being granted the power to carry it out. The preceding 10 steps are typically a residual requirement. God, say that 3 times quickly. Prerequisite for the 11th step, which enables us to practice the 12th step, which is a step we got to get out of our own way, right? And that's a little harder than you might think sometimes. What got us to rely on the simple truth of getting out of our own way rather than complicating, out of everything, was to surrender to that God who has all power. We had to hit rock bottom, at least many of us did, so we could begin to build a solid foundation. That's what rock bottoms are for. They are a solid foundation for the rest of your life. But most people live in fear, and they believe that being powerless is an ugly thing. It's a sign of weakness or something. Of course, it's the ego talking, but it's actually one of the most beautiful distraction of the universe. And distractions abound, don't they? So a terrible bottom, what is it? Hitting bottom. It's where we hit down deep and we encounter incomprehensible demoralization. Whatever it is, and it drove us crazy. Hitting rock bottom is not an easy thing to do. I think we lose our sanity, the road that leads us to hit rock bottom. But once we get honest about that, then the incomprehensible demoralization actually becomes a stepping stone to believing that our lives could be restored to sanity. We could be restored to our original condition. We were born okay, but what happened after that? And why did we get distracted? So whatever drove us crazy enough to have the courage to question our convictions, turns out to be of indescribable exquisiteness. So we go from incomprehensible demoralization and indescribable exquisiteness. And the jackpot that we experienced was to put our hand in God's hand. And it's all God wanted ever anyway. God didn't want or require any of the other details that we call our busy lives, our productive lives. It's like we mistake activity for progress constantly. But God's plans have nothing to do with our plans unless we've aligned. God just wants us to get as close as we can so we end up with a method which keeps us in constant contact with God so that we see nothing but God's will at all times and in all places, regardless of what this world is doing to distract us. Yeah, sure, we should pray in all things, small and large. Yet we should never lose our conscious contact with God and knowing that all things work together for those that surrender their hearts and minds through love of God's ultimate design and geometry. I had a spiritual advisor tell me once that we don't get ready to meet God so much as we meet God to get ready. And that, ironically, we've always been good enough. And the getting ready or being ready have never differentiated from each other. It was just our ego thinking that anything less than perfection is possible. Be ye perfect as your Creator in heaven is perfect. Let me repeat that. Be ye perfect as your Creator in heaven is perfect. And that means you get out of the way. And once you have that ultimate alignment, then the ultimate design and geometry become yours. To focus on our ordeals in life, whatever they are, is to make deals with God. And so many of us know that that never turns out so well. My best thinking never kept me out of jail. It never kept me from falling into discord with people, places, and things. Working a good program means getting out of my own way, or our getting out of our own way. We quit trying to fix our own defects of character, but rather turn them over to the care of God. Constantly being aware of and feeling God's presence in the midst of all circumstances. It might seem difficult. and it might seem blissful, but it is the essence of spiritual awareness. It is the essence of true freedom and autonomy to accept things we cannot change and have the courage to change the things we can. And that's a gift to receive as the ultimate wisdom. So take what you like and leave the rest. I don't know if I said what I said very well, but oh well, it's fine. And for those that like helping people, here's a really cool book, Help for Helpers. Yeah, I should have reversed and mirrored my image, but it's a really cool daily meditation. Help for Helpers. Peace out, folks. God bless. Bye.